For virtually all of 2023, House Republicans have persistently and publicly stepped on rakes in their desperate quest to justify the baseless impeachment effort against President Biden. And just when you think that James Comer, who's the GOP's grand inquisitor in this witch hunt, had finally run out of ways to abjectly humiliate himself in front of the American people, for whatever reason, he agreed to be interviewed by a very fed up Jake Tapper. And what resulted was the most brutal interview between Comer and the media on this topic. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, folks, we have several clips to play. Brace yourselves for maximum cringe and hilarity on the part of Jake Tapper in particular. And for context, this is in the aftermath of the Republican special counsel David Weiss announcing that he would bring at least 9 additional charges against President Biden's civilian son, Hunter, who has been the primary vector by which Republicans have attempted to humiliate Biden. So with all that in mind, we'll play the clip and we'll unpack it all together.
Peddling scheme.
So that's what you're saying, but the counter argument might be that it's not that he's only charging crimes that cannot be traced to President Biden. The counter argument might be he's only charging crimes for which there is actual evidence. And that would lead me to my next question is, can you name one piece of evidence or testimony that directly and credibly connects President Biden to any of this proven misconduct? Proven.
I could name 2.
Okay.
First of all, we believe President Biden committed a quid pro quo when he leveraged $1 billion of U.S. taxpayer money in Ukraine in exchange for firing the prosecutor Shokin, who was investigating Burisma, the company that Hunter Biden just got charged with receiving substantial sums of money and not paying taxes. We believe that Joe Biden was directly involved in the termination. We believe this, Jake, because he admitted it on tape. That's one crime.
The entire. We'll get to the second in a second, but just for our viewers' awareness, the entire Western world wanted Shokin fired. Like, it wasn't just President Biden. The entire Western world, the European Union, the G8, there were a lot of people, including Republican members of the House and the Senate, who wanted Shokin fired. It wasn't just like Vice President Biden, conspiring with himself. So, okay, what's the second one?
So as we talked about, this is the most common right-wing talking point on this subject, the idea that as Vice President Biden engaged in a quid pro quo. Again, there's no evidence for it. It was official State Department policy. It reflected the consensus of the Western world, the G8. And by the way, the company for which Hunter Biden worked in Ukraine, Burisma, were they technically under investigation? Yes, at one point, for a time frame that preceded Hunter Biden's hiring. So the time for which Burisma was under investigation was for alleged corruption that was before Hunter Biden was ever on the board. Okay, it had nothing to do with Hunter Biden. So with that in mind, let's play the next clip.
Income. So we think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We think there are many more crimes. And my concern is that Weiss may have indicted Hunter Biden to protect him from having to be deposed.
Yes.
In the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday.
He indicted him to protect him. Yes. The classic rubric. He indicted him to protect him. I got it.
Well, look, this whole thing's been about a cover-up. You've got 2.
That's why he indicted him to protect him, to cover it up?
Well, look, you indict him on the least little thing, the gun charge, and not paying taxes.
He's facing like 17 additional years in prison.
Yeah, but look what he's done. Anybody else?
So Comer's argument, and it's actually, again, a common right-wing argument that's being peddled pretty much everywhere, is this idea that David Weiss, a Trump-appointed Republican special counsel, has indicted Hunter Biden repeatedly and now put 9 additional charges for which there would probably be 17 to 20 or maybe more years in prison if Hunter Biden is found guilty, to protect him. Joe Biden is going to jail his son to protect his son from jail. Ridiculous. Inconsistent, and Jake Tapper was right to mock it. Here's another clip.
In any case, I guess my other question is just, isn't something better than nothing? Why not just jump at the opportunity to grill Hunter Biden on national television here's your chance. You know, you're the dog that caught the bus. Here it is.
This isn't about politics. It's not about theater. My job, I know the media, and I like you, Jake. I know the media would like to have a big public show, and that would be very entertaining. But my job is not to entertain. Public show.
Yes, it's me.
Right. My job is not to entertain you all. My job is to get the truth. When you have
in any case,
So James Comer has the temerity, a guy who's been on Fox News like 200 to 300 times by last count. He seems to be in a Fox News chair more than he's in a House chair. That's for sure. He says it's not about theater. It's not about politics, which is so self-evidently ridiculous that even Jake Tapper has to laugh at it. Now, again, they're referring to the fact that repeatedly, James Comer and other House Republicans dared and challenged Hunter Biden to come before them, to come before the House Oversight Committee or the House Judiciary Committee or the House Ways and Means Committee, which are the three committees involved in this impeachment effort against President Biden, come before them in congressional hearings to testify. And finally, Hunter Biden agreed. And they're like, no. Okay, we were just kidding. We can't do it in public. We have to do it in private. And as we discussed in a previous video, the reason they want to do it in private is because they're not confident in the claims that they've made. They don't believe that deposition or testimony from Hunter Biden will yield them the proof for the claims they've made. That is weakness. We've also talked about how House Republicans can't be trusted at their word. You know, James Comer says, listen, let's do it in private, and then eventually maybe we'll do a public hearing. We have no reason to believe them. And also, when witnesses have testified before the Republican-led Oversight Committee in private, the vast majority of the time, House Republicans have not released the transcript or the footage. Something like 13 out of 16 times they have kept that information secret. So you can't trust them with respect to transparency. An absolutely brutal interview. Now, what's interesting is after the interview was conducted, Jake Tapper interviewed one of the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, Dan Goldman, to basically react to his interview of James Comer. And this is what Goldman had to say.
Congressman, I'm not sure if you heard our interview with Chairman Comer, but he said that he thinks U.S. Attorney David Weiss indicted Hunter Biden in order to protect him because he's using the lesser charges. I couldn't really make out much sense of it, but I did want to give you an opportunity as a Democrat on the committee to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I think through that whole interview, what's up is down and what's down is up for Chairman Comer. The only reason I think Hunter Biden was prosecuted and charged with these crimes, which almost are never charged for the gun charge and would be settled civilly for the tax charges, is because of Chairman Comer and House Republicans' undue and improper interference in an ongoing criminal investigation.
I do want to pause there for just a minute because that's a point that I've made in previous videos, including one very recently. People on the right and so-called enlightened centrists say that Hunter Biden is getting special treatment. He's being treated with kid gloves with respect to other American citizens. Now, two things can be true simultaneously. It's probably true that Hunter Biden is a Nepo baby, that he is a beneficiary of nepotism because of his last name. That has opened doors for him in many aspects of life. There's no question that that is certainly the case. And yet it can also be the case that he's receiving additional scrutiny because he's related to the current president of the United States, the former vice president of the United States, and the leader of the Democratic Party. Hunter Biden was investigated under the Obama Justice Department, the Trump Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, his own father's Justice Department. He's been investigated by Senate Republicans and House Republicans. And this man has never held a government position. This is not Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, who wielded state power as an official White House advisor, a member of government, somebody who was described as the shadow Secretary of State. Hunter Biden has been held to an absurdly higher standard as Joe Biden's son than Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner have been held to as Donald Trump's daughter and son-in-law, and they wielded state power. It is a complete asymmetry, an indefensible asymmetry. And as Dan Goldman points out, many of these crimes would either have been charges not brought in the first place, or have been settled out of court. As a matter of fact, Roger Stone, a Trump ally who owed a greater tax liability than Hunter Biden, he was never charged. Absolutely complete hypocrisy from the Republicans, but we'll continue.
But that's the least of the concerns about what he said. Chairman Comer may be a great farmer, Jake, but he has no idea what he's talking about with criminal law. I was a federal prosecutor for 10 years. There is nothing remotely close to a FARA violation or to money laundering. I don't think he knows what they are, and certainly doesn't understand what would be required by that. And what was particularly noteworthy is I thought you asked a very good question to actually name evidence, because every time Chairman Comer goes on TV, he makes bold accusations about all these crimes, and they, even though it's only Hunter Biden. And the only piece of evidence that he pointed to was the Burisma issue where Joe Biden encouraged Ukraine to fire the prosecutor general Shokin. That has been proven up, down, left, right, every single which way to be completely bogus. And in fact, firing Shokin, who was not prosecuting corruption, was actually bad for Burisma and therefore bad for Hunter Biden.
Now, that was according to testimony from Devon Archer, who was considered to be the star Republican witness a couple of months ago, and it backfired spectacularly. I want to play one more clip and go through a few more things. I know this is relatively long, but I really want to be decisive about this and drive the point home that Comer and House Republicans have abjectly humiliated themselves in front of the American people. This is Lisa McClain, a House Republican who was interviewed by Maria Bartiromo recently and was asked a very blunt, point-blank question.
The witness testimony, of course, all indicating or suggesting that there could be some serious crime here, like bribery or money laundering. Have you been able to identify any actual policy changes that Joe Biden made as a result of getting money from China?
The short answer is no.
The short answer is no. So when it comes to alleged crimes of Joe Biden acting as a foreign agent, an unregistered foreign agent, or money laundering on behalf of foreign powers, be it Ukraine or be it China, the short answer is no. In order to have a quid pro quo, they've alleged the bribe. They have not proven the bribe. They've just said, listen, he received money in terms of loan repayment from his brother and his son, and the financial records prove that he provided the loans in the first place, so everything seems above board. But they've alleged the quid. They can't prove the pro. Quid pro quo, you need both. He received a bribe and changed policy. You've claimed the bribe. Where's the policy? Well, we don't have the policy. And any of the claims regarding the bribe crumble upon scrutiny. The last thing I'll point out, we won't go through the whole thing, but this is from testimony from Devon Archer, again, the Republican star witness, a former board member of Burisma alongside Hunter Biden, a close business associate of Hunter Biden. And Dan Goldman, the Democrat who was just interviewed, asked these questions. So at the conclusion of that investigation, Senate minority staff, they're referring to a 2020 investigation into these issues because, again, it's been relitigated a gazillion times. The Senate minority staff issued a report summarizing the finding. I'd like to read these for you. Every witness interviewed for this investigation testified that Vice President Biden did not alter U.S. policy to benefit his son Hunter Biden, and Hunter Biden's presence on the board of Burisma had no effect on foreign policy. Every witness stated that Hunter Biden and his associates had no role in the formulation of U.S. policy, and Hunter's role did not influence U.S. foreign policy decisions, and that Vice President Biden carried out his U.S. foreign policy in the interest of the United States. The investigation's evidence set forth in this minority report confirms there was no corruption, wrongdoing, or impropriety on the part of Joe Biden. Having read that for you, he's asking Devon Archer, I have a few questions based on your own knowledge and experience. Based on your own knowledge and experience, your relationship with Hunter, your time on Burisma's board, and the entirety of your knowledge and experience, do you have any basis to disagree with the conclusion that, quote, Vice President Biden did not alter U.S. foreign policy to benefit Hunter Biden? Devon Archer says, I have no basis to know if he altered. I have no basis to know he altered policy to benefit his son. I have no knowledge. Sorry. I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge. And he repeats it. He says it repeatedly. Nothing. So, folks, I call this a witch hunt because based on a year of exhaustive, persistent efforts by the Republican Party, they have produced no evidence. Okay. The Republican Party has made this their top priority, infinitely more than working bipartisanly with Democrats and the president to produce material benefits for the American people, for their own voters, for their own constituents. Getting Biden by way of Hunter Biden has been their top priority. and they have failed substantively on the facts. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Every talking point has been debunked. Anyone who suggests otherwise is either a liar or an idiot. Let me know what you think in the comments.